Hello, gentle marketers. Welcome to episode number 38 of the Gentle Business Revolution podcast, the show where we talk about marketing your business by disrupting the current marketing paradigm and changing it to a gentler approach, one that's based on empathy and kindness. I'm Sarah Croce. I'm the host on this show, and you know that you're in the right place if you are a heart-centered entrepreneur or change maker who is looking for a better way to market your business. Or you are an entrepreneur who is tired of the traditional marketing model and are ready for a paradigm shift. You might also be what I call a marketing impact pioneer. So someone working in marketing for an organization who does business for good. And this episode especially is addressing you, the marketing impact pioneer, because we're talking about B corporations. So more about that in a minute. Real quick before we begin though, if you're new to this show, a huge big welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I structured this podcast and the conversations around the 7 P's of the Gentle Marketing Mandala. And today's episode, for example, fits under the P of product. The other P's are passion, personal power, people, pricing, promotion, and partnership. So seeing my one-page Gentle Marketing plan with the 7 email prompts might help you understand a bit better what we're talking about here on this show. If you're curious and intrigued, you can get your one-page marketing plan at sarahsanacroce.com/one page. That's the number 1 and then page. So let me tell you a bit more about today's guest, Sophie Conchon. Since 2007, Sophie is an expert in helping companies become certified B Corps and the first B leader trained by B Lab Switzerland. Don't worry if you don't know what a B Corp is, you'll definitely know after listening to today's episode. Besides her sustainability work, Sophie's also a graphic facilitator and founder of the company Sketch for Good. She'll tell us all about it in this episode. Sophie lives in Lausanne, and we had actually the privilege to hang out several times already and exchange ideas over coffee in real life. So that's always I call it a privilege. I mean, it's all good to connect via Zoom, but when you get to meet someone in person, it is still a huge privilege, right? So here are some of the topics that we cover in today's episode. We define what a B Corp or a B Corporation is. We also talk about what makes a B Corp different from other companies. Sophie is going to explain the B Corp label and its certifications and the 5 pillars that make up this certification. We talk about the 17 sustainable development goals that are laid forth by the United Nations. And then we go over some B Corp examples, and I also ask Sophie at the end how she sees the future of organizations in general, but mainly the future of B Corps. I really think it's a fascinating conversation, and I'm so excited to share it with you. So here we are. Hi, Sophie. So good to talk to you.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to be with you today.
Yes, we had a nice chat offline, and we're recording this during the Corona crisis, and it was nice to chat with you a little bit since, we're in the same city, which doesn't often happen with my guests. So it's nice to talk to you. But now we're not going to talk about coronavirus. We're going to talk about B Corporation.
Let's make it a forbidden world for the next minutes.
So, Sophie, you're an expert in helping companies become certified B Corps since 2017, and you're also the first B leader trained by B Lab Switzerland. I'd like you to help the audience understand, maybe first of all, what a B Corporation is, because there's probably people on the show that have never heard this term. So why don't you start there and explain what that is?
Well, that's a tough question, because behind this word, there's a lot of meanings. So just like in gentle marketing, you have the seven P's. Well,
Right.
behind B Corporation, I used to say there are 5 Bs. So the first one is, of course, B Corp, which is the short term to refer to certified B Corporation, which are companies that have met the highest standards of verified social and environmental performance. And they publish this performance publicly after the audit from the second B, which is B Lab. So B Lab is the NGO that is powering this certification and also structuring a community of business that want to have an impact on the world. And so those business are the certified B Corporation, which bring me to the third B, which is the B Impact Assessment, which is this assessment that you go through when you want to certify, but that any business in the world can use as a way to measure what truly matters, which is your global performance. So you can access this tool online for free, and only if you wish to certify, you can then after move forward with the certification.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned I was a B leader, so it's actually my fourth B. B leaders are people that help companies go through the process of certification and better understand what this B Corp movement is about. And the 5B is actually the B economy, which is the vision of the economy that this movement of companies are leading. So what they truly believe in is that business can be a force for good, and that you can balance purpose and profit to make a positive impact on our world.
Yeah, I want to get back to that statement, but I want to just repeat the 5 Bs. So B Corp, B Lab, B Assessment, which I've looked at, and it's quite extensive and very in depth, right? This assessment.
Yeah. Well, perhaps we'll cover later the topics in the B Impact Assessment, because I think it's really helpful for business to know what is a positive impact.
Yeah, let's talk about, because there's a number 5 involved there as well. So the B assessment, and then the B leader, which you are one of them, and the B economy.
Yeah.
Those are the 5. So, and then you mentioned, purpose and profit is kind of the main theme for B Corps. So why is it so essential that we pay attention to both, and why has B Corp kind of made it its slogan, if you will?
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question, because I studied in a business school, and back then, so I was learning all kind of economy theory, and basically what you learn is it's either purpose or profit.
Right.
So if you focus on purpose, you're a non-profit.
Right.
And if you're a business, your sole purpose is to actually maximize profits. And I would say that this is the basis of the shareholder capitalism. And this system that we inherited from the 20th century is no longer working. Just open a newspaper, look at the virus we are currently facing. So the crisis, the health crisis we're facing, youth in the streets demonstrating for climate. This is no longer working. And why it's no longer working? It's because we are not focusing on all the stakeholders of a business. And so the B Corp movement is trying to reconcile purpose with profit, saying you don't need to choose. It's not purpose or profit. It's purpose and profit. And the purpose of a business is actually to maximize the value for all shareholders. and to make sure that you're having a positive impact on all of them. That's why it's so important for the B Corp movement. And I think those companies are the pioneer of a new way to reinvent capitalism and the purpose of a business.
Yeah, so true. And maybe could you give some examples of B Corps, so companies who have the B Corp label, where you would say the purpose is very clear to the customer?
Well, one company that I found really inspiring, and they're among the top scorer in the B impact assessment, so they have one of the highest score in the world, is Patagonia. And actually, Patagonia was founded by Yvon Chouinard, who was really passionate about mountain climbing. And he wanted first to design products for this specific passion he had. And then the business of Patagonia shifted to all kind of outdoors equipment and apparel. And their purpose, so 2 years ago, he redefined their purpose, saying, when I look at the world right now, our mission is no longer to give fantastic products while saving the environment. Our mission statement is we're in business to save our home planet. Because it's no longer about creating sustainable products, because they're already doing that as a B Corp. It's really how do we use the engine of our business to actually have a provide a solution to the current climate change we have and the loss of biodiversity.
Yeah.
So they started years ago by donating 1% for the planet. So it was their self-imposed environmental tax, let's say. Uh-huh. And now they're going really one step further. I think it was last year they had some bonus taxes granted by the current administration, the Trump administration. And instead of saying, okay, we're happy to have more money on our account, they redistributed everything, every single dollar to NGOs and companies that are trying to tackle climate change, because this is their main priority as a business.
Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful example, and it's so interesting to me how you said that the founder was passionate about mountain climbing, because in the 7 P's of gentle marketing, we also start with the word passion, right? And as a solopreneur or as an entrepreneur, often people are a bit overwhelmed when you ask them, what's your purpose? Well, often the purpose does start with the passion, and in our case, it's our own passion. So how can you then, kind of relate this passion with what is your worldview, or what your values are, or what you believe in, and what is needed in the world? So it's a beautiful example how the founder had a passion, then developed into a purpose, and now saves or made his mission to save the world. I think it's a beautiful story.
And you know that in the B Corp movement, the anthem is "Be the change you want to see in the world." So it's usually you find very often the hashtag "Be the change" next to a B Corp post. It's because people really relate to that. And if I take the example of Patagonia, it's no longer just Yvon Chouinard. I've met lots of people that work for Patagonia, and they all have the same spirit. They're all connected to this purpose that this mission statement he coined. And when he coined it, actually, he turned to his employee and he said, okay, now let's find some solutions together. So it's really a good example also of what a powerful purpose can be.
Exactly, yeah. When you and I met a few weeks ago at a coffee here in Lausanne, you introduced me to the concept of the 5 pillars of the B certification. So another number 5. So let's walk through those 5 different pillars.
Well, there's 5 impact areas on which you're assessed, and you can evaluate your impact, and they are based on all the stakeholders of your company. So the first one is really, I would say, the most fundamental, which is the governance. So what are the rules of your company? How do you measure and report your impact to your shareholders, who are actually, sometimes it's you as the founder, you're also the main shareholder, but sometimes you also have investors. So how do you communicate on this impact? What practice you have put in place regarding your ethics?
Mm-hmm.
Second pillar is about employees. How do you treat them? How do you make sure that they have equal pay? How do you make sure that they have equal opportunities, no matter their origin, their gender, their age? And how do you make sure of their security, safety, and also their well-being? So all kinds of questions related to that. The third pillar is about community. So community, it's about first your suppliers. How do you select them and how do you treat them? And the second part is really about your local footprint and how you relate to your local community. Are you supporting local charities, for instance? How do you do that? The fourth pillar is about environment. So it's really about the impact, the environmental impact of both your offices, but also your products. And the fifth pillar is your clients. So how do you monitor your relationship with your clients? And also what impact your product or your services may have on specific populations, so underprivileged populations, or depending on your line of business, are you addressing certain kinds of clients that won't be served in a normal business, let's say, world?
Yeah. I in gentle marketing, we also talk about our ideal clients and our people. I define the conscious client today as someone who is smarter, someone who wants to be heard and seen, someone who wants to be served, not sold to, and someone who wants to do good. So this doing good has really become more important nowadays. And that's where the B Corp, I think, they really understand that this is what today's client wants. They don't just want the cheapest product anymore. If you think of the hierarchy of needs of Maslow's pyramid, we're not at the bottom of that pyramid anymore, right? At least in the Western world, we're towards the top, and so we do have the funds to actually want to buy a product or a service that doesn't just fill a need, but it also makes us feel good for investing in that company, and it helps. It does good for the planet on some level. So I think that is so important nowadays.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, and especially among millennials, it's not only about what they buy, but it's also about the company they want to work with.
Yeah.
What I used to work in HR in big corporations, and I've seen the change around 2015. I had my HR colleague coming to me saying, "Hey, in recruitment, young graduated, they always ask about our CSR policy, and they always say, wow, it's really great what you're doing, and it makes me want to join the company." So it's not just about, for me, about making sure you will sell products to what consumer now expect. It's also, as an employer, if you actually want to attract the best talents, you need to consider your impact, the way you treat your employees, and also your impact on the planet, because they are asking the questions.
So true. So they're not just looking for the biggest salary anymore, right? They are really interested in what this company does for the world's needs. And I find it so inspiring that it's not just the money that drives them. So that's, again, purpose and profit. So it's not just the individual profit or the salary that matters, but it's also the fulfillment in a way, right? Am I doing work that has a purpose and that fulfills me personally?
And that's funny because that's actually my story of employment. Because when I finished my business school, and I was always saying I want purpose and profit as an individual. So I want to have a purpose through my work, and I want to have a good salary.
Right.
And it makes me make choices that I would say, the other alumni didn't follow at the time. And now they're calling me back saying, "Hey, what's your recipe to have purpose and profit in you, and so purpose and revenues in your daily life?" So
yeah, it took him a while to realize that profit alone is not enough, but they're coming around now. Yeah. Another thing we talked about at the coffee in Lausanne is the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So they're tightly linked to a new thing. I'll let you explain what it is, but they're tightly linked to B Corp and the new tool that they just developed. But let's start with explaining what these SDGs are.
Well, the SDGs are, so this is our common agenda to save the world. Mm-hmm. If I say it very simply, they have been coined and created in 2015 by the United Nations, so signed by all the member states. And the idea was to have an agenda for 2030, so 10 years from now, to tackle the biggest challenges humanity is faced with. So it's not only about poverty, it's also about rising inequalities, and the crisis we are in at the moment is actually showing that even deeper. It's also about tackling climate change, access to education for all. So it's a huge, huge agenda. And states cannot cover it on their own. They really need businesses to step in, to invest in new solutions to tackle those sustainable development goals, so which are 17 of them.
I'll make sure that we include an image of the 17 SDGs in the show notes so people can actually have a look at them, because I think it'd be too long or people won't cover them if we just go through them. So we'll make sure.
And perhaps one invitation for people listening to us is look at them and try as an individual to think about the 5 SDGs on which you're already having an impact and on which you can further this impact. Because I've been playing this game with now 100 people since 2017. And after asking 20 people, we cover the whole agenda. So my message to you is that if we all focus on what really matters for us on these SDGs, well, I think we will achieve this agenda by 2030.
I think that's so important to realize that you don't have to cover all of them. You know, there seems to be this kind of movement where it feels like, oh, you have to kind of fight on all fronts, or you know, kind of invest yourself for everything that is good in a way, but I think that's just overwhelming, and certain things are maybe less important for you. I give you a personal example. I feel that sometimes there's pressure for me to step up more for equality for women, and of course, that's a topic that matters to me personally. It's just not my main focus. It's not where I see myself making an impact. Also, because of in personal life, I feel quite equal, and I actually like to, work with men, and I don't see it as a fight. I think if we fight for equality, then there's something wrong with that concept to begin with. But just to say that, you don't have to choose all of them as your goal, because that just gets overwhelming. And I don't think you have to feel guilty either to say, oh, that's not really my thing. What would you say to that?
Yeah, especially I really like the word you use, which is it's not my main focus.
Right.
I mean, we only have 10 years left to cover this agenda. The goals are really super ambitious. If we do not focus on what really matters to us, and it doesn't mean that the rest doesn't matter, but we really need to focus on where we can really have an impact and where I would say our heart goes,
Right.
where we really can make a difference. Otherwise, the risk is that you will not achieve big things, and the other risk is what I'm witnessing a bit in the sustainable development report from big companies. They are trying to tackle them all, but in that case, it looks a lot like rainbow washing for me.
Yeah.
So we used to have greenwashing, now we have rainbow washing.
Yeah.
I'm doing the whole SDG thing.
Yeah. And it feels a bit fake in a way because it feels like they're just scrambling to try to cover everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this idea of choosing 5 main ones. So let's talk about this SDG Action Manager, which is the tool that's related to the 17 SDGs.
Yes, this tool has been released in January this year, so in January 2020, and it is a partnership between the UN Global Compact, which is the United Nations Agency for Businesses, and with a partnership with B Lab, so the NGO behind the B Corp movement, because they really wanted to create a tool that helped companies to step up, because this is one thing to say we need businesses to help fund and find solutions for the global agenda, so the SDGs. But it's another thing to tell them concretely what they can do and how to measure their impact on those SDGs. Because if you look at the SDGs, behind the 17, you have targets that have been set, but they have been set by states. So it has been thought by in a, I would say, a public context and not a business context.
Mm-hmm.
The whole work that B Lab and the United Global Compact did was to find a way to make it more actionable for businesses and to see what they can do to tackle some SDGs. And so the SDG Action Manager is really this tool. It's a free online tool where you can actually list your performance, and it's confidential. So it's only B Lab team that can look at your results if you want them to look at it. And the second thing about this tool is actually that it is connected to the B impact assessment. So it means that for existing B Corps, part of the questions are already answered because they have done the B impact assessment.
Wow.
So I would say it's a different perspective on how you measure the impact of your company using another framework, which is the SDGs, and a framework that is now more and more acknowledged by the general public. Because
Right.
you hear about it even in the schools now. They're teaching it to young students.
Do you know any feedback like of companies who have used it already?
Well, I had some feedbacks from Danone who are actually using it as an internal tool to measure their progress on the SDGs.
Nice.
So they, instead of just trying to make a public communication saying, "Oh, we are tackling this by these small actions," they're really using the tool as a way to improve their performance.
Mm. Yeah, it's wonderful because it's true. Like if we just have the goals, but don't give people the tools to actually measure that impact, then it kind of feels a bit overwhelming, and companies probably think, well, how are we going to even track any of this? So I'm sure it's very helpful to have this action manager in place.
Yeah, and in both tools, what I've seen is for once the power of the number, because you get a score. And I think it's something in our brain, our human brain. Once you have a score, you want to improve it. And so you enter in a kind of game, which is to say, okay, where can I have more points? And then it's, I would say, a good competition, or a good way to use the competition trigger in our brain.
In a way, it's using the right brain, which is kind of the untangible results. The impact sometimes is, feels like, how am I going to impact or how am I going to measure the impact on peace? Right? That feels untangible. But once you have a tool in place that kind of talks to the left brain and says, no, here's your number, and now, improve on that. I like it. Yeah.
Definitely.
So you help organizations that go through the certification process, which again, I've looked at it and it's quite challenging. So which are the areas where you see the most need for handholding or the most adjusting of habits with your clients?
Well, in the B impact assessment, it really, I would say, depends on your industry, because the questionnaire is designed according to your industry. So the 5 areas that I mentioned before, they don't have the same number of points if you are a manufacturing products or if you're a service company. So if I just take this example, for when you're a manufacturing company, I would say that the most challenging parts are really related to your environmental footprint of your products. And when I said that, it's from the creation of the product to its end. So the whole cycle of the products. Then there's also the working conditions in your plants and your suppliers as well. Who are your suppliers? Where are they based? How do you select them? Whereas if you're a service company, well, the challenges are more related to your workers, because this is what makes the value of your company and your services. So it's more questions about diversity, equal opportunities. And if you're a service company with a lot of, I would say, internet activities, your challenge will be related to green IT. So where are your data hosted? What kind of service you're using? That I know the emails is now people start realizing the impact of it. And one last thing is I've noticed that there's really a difference between, I would say, existing business and newcomers or startups. The most challenging questions for existing business, especially if they've been running for decades, is what is your company mission and what is the impact you seek to have on the world? What I see with startups now and newcomers on the market is that they differentiate by having a purpose for their business and really focus on what is the positive impact they want to have. Whereas existing business, you tend to be in the business as usual, and you're not questioning, okay, but what's the why?
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Yeah. Yeah, that is so interesting. In the book that I'm writing, right, about gentle marketing, the first part of the book is kind of this, it's called the rumble. So rumble with your story, rumble with your passion, really going into why you started this business. And like you said, the startups, that's how they start. They have a purpose, or they see a need for business for good. But companies that have established themselves years ago, they just wanted to make money. Let's just say it, right? So it's really about maybe going back to your origin story and figuring out, well, really, when it comes down to it, you started this business maybe out of a passion, and that now is translated into a purpose. So it's interesting how there's a difference between established companies and newer companies. I guess startups are often also started by millennials, and so they just kind of have it in their blood, right?
Also, I would say the governance part for them, what is challenging is more to think about the right structure. Mm-hmm. Whereas for an existing business, the most challenging question is, what is your mission statement? Mm-hmm. And how does it impact the world?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is the place where you actually realize whether the mission statement is pure, I would say, marketing or mission washing, and the part where it's actually a real purpose.
Yeah. Mm. How do you see the next 10 years of B Corp develop?
Wow, that's a tough question in the unknown context we're in. But perhaps one quote from the last B Corp summit that was in Amsterdam is by John Elkington. So he's a British economist, and he said that we're entering an exponential decade. So exponential decade, it means that we're going to face transformation and innovation that are going to radically change the world. And my view is that B Corp movement is going to lead this way, showing that a new economic system is possible, that we no longer need to choose between purpose and profits and reinvent the way we balance them both.
Right.
And so in 10 years' time, I really hope that we will have achieved the net zero goal that was set during the last COP25. So B Corp, a lot of B Corp has engaged in saying we want to have net zero emission in the world. And my dream would be that other companies lead the way and follow this move, not just put it into 2050, but really looking at, okay, what can we achieve for 2030?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I truly believe so as well, that we're in a transition, and I'm geeking out a bit on astrology and some other more woo-woo stuff, and I do hear it over and over again. We're breaking the old paradigm in order to, emerge in a new paradigm, and this crisis that we're in right now is part of that, is part of breaking down the old paradigm, the old power paradigm, maybe capitalism, so that something new can emerge. Because as we know, we usually don't change if things still work, and we just keep on going and maybe complain a bit, but still stuff is still working, and so why would we want to change? Well, right now everything is crumbling, and so that also means that there is a fertile ground for something new to emerge, and I truly believe that business with purpose is going to be one of those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's talk again in 10 years or more, but let's make
I'll put it in my agenda.
Yes. Great. Before we wrap up, Sophie, tell us a bit about your side hustle business as well, which is called Sketch for Good.
Well, Sketch for Good, it actually started with a passion.
Yeah, there you go.
A passion for sketchnoting, and I don't know if a lot of people know about it. So sketchnoting, it's a word that was invented by an American designer, Mike Roddy, and it's just to say that you're taking your notes visually using some pictos, simple drawing to make it more visual and a better way to remember the information. And so I really discovered sketchnoting in a serendipity moment on YouTube. And I really recommend the channel that helped me build this, the basics of this skill, which is from verbal to visual.
From verbal to visual. Okay.
Yeah, and I really want to thank Doug Nave that I've never met, but thanks to him, I started sketchnoting for myself. So during the meetings, when I was reading an article, just to remember things. And then I also started to sketchnote in conferences that I was attending, and people were looking at my notes saying, hey, that's a funny way to take them, but that's really great. Can I take a picture? And thanks to that, I started posting it on LinkedIn. And this is how I got my first client, saying, hey, I really like your skill. Can you do that for me? So that's the moment where you say, okay, well, let's answer the incoming calls. And I found my name because I wanted to find, also by serendipity, I wanted to have something that shows that this skill is a powerful skill to change the world. And so one day I looked at the Sketch for Good is already taken on Instagram, Twitter, or the .com. Nobody has thought about it. So
Wow. Yay.
And now I need to do the website, and I'm gonna first start by Instagram as a way also to share those sketch notes, because this is really a fantastic skill to explain very simply some complex notions. And the drawing is really helping us connect also to our emotions.
Maybe you could make a sketch of our conversation and we'll include it in the show notes. That'd be awesome.
Well, I take the challenge.
All right, wonderful. We'll make sure to include it in the show notes. Yay! Yeah, you really have a skill. Every time we meet, we're just talking at having coffee, and meanwhile you're like drawing and our ideas, and then it's like, oh wow, look at that, we have this beautiful picture or visual of our conversation. So,
and not only does it help me really remember, because I deeply connect with the people thanks to drawing, but also I think that now the conversation I have are more meaningful, and I think we both understand each other better when we put it on paper. But with this, I would say a more easy way than just writing words like a contract or notes.
Feels more playful.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks so much for taking the time. Please do tell people where they can find you and learn more about you.
Well, the main entrance is LinkedIn, because I have a lot of activities. So this is the most up-to-date part where you can find all my activities and things I'm doing. And for Sketch for Good, you just need to follow me on Instagram if you want to see my work. And so it's Sketch for, like the number, good on Instagram.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for taking the time. I had a blast, and I also learned a lot. So that's great. Thanks.
Well, that was a fantastic conversation, and I really enjoy also learning more on the gentle marketing approach. Thanks to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sophie. Thank you so much for listening. Please do check out the show notes for this episode at sarahsanacroce.com/GBR38. Make sure to check it out, because you get to see the sketch that Sophie made for us based on our conversation. I look forward to more conversations such as this one with B Corporation labeled organizations. I think they make great gentle marketers. So if you are a B Corp leader listening to this and would like to share your story related to any of the P's of the gentle marketing mandala, please do reach out. I'd love to feature you on the show. And if you share my worldview, I'd love to hang out with you in the Gentle Business Circle. It is a safe zone to hang out with other gentle marketers and help each other build our business and grow our impact. When you join the circle, you get one live monthly circle Q&A call with me and other fellow gentle marketers. And if you can't make it live, you can always submit your questions in advance. You also get a monthly newsletter, and the replays obviously will also be posted in a private platform. As a bonus, you also get access to my new course, Authentic and Fair Pricing. That's a mini course that I just recently added to my Kajabi. So if you're interested in any of this, these calls take place once per month, every second Wednesday of the month. And I'm hoping to get a group together to start this in June. There are different levels of support starting at $7 per month, and you can find out all the details at sarahsanacroce.com/circle. I hope you'll join me on this journey to a kinder marketing paradigm. Please invite your friends to join us by sharing this episode or the Gentle Business Manifesto with them. Both can be found at thegentlebusinessrevolution.com. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. Talk to you soon.